Inside the 18, I'm Michael Magid, live from Hollywood, California. With me, you know him as the one and only czar of the virtual background, Omar Zini, known as Pro GK Academy. Omar, I've heard that you've got multiple backgrounds ready to go for today.
Only for special guests, all right?
I was about to say, you better be now if you don't do it for guests. It's gonna be
No.
People are gonna start to wonder, mate. People are gonna start to wonder.
They're like, whatever.
At this point, you know, I posted so much stuff about Chris on my page. They probably think he's paying me, but I just respect this guy so much. I post so much about him. So hey, special guests, special things have to be done for special times, you know.
All right.
Speaking of special times, we've got, of course, 99 World Cup winner Saskia Weber, who's been having quite the weekend. She's been a lot of stuff going on over there. A lot of really exciting things. And what I'm talking about is UCLA soccer, Saskia.
Yeah, UCLA soccer. You're talking about the new granddaughter.
Yes.
Yes,
indeedy. And obviously, we're happy to have you back. To have you back. Obviously, there was a lot going on, and it was very difficult to go. Probably pretty difficult to do the podcast from the hospital, I would say, right? That would be
yeah. Well, my focus would not have been on, on Chris.
which is the guest that we have, guys, today. Chris, honestly, I mean, I was going to say goalkeeper coach for the Colorado Rapids, but that doesn't do you justice. I really want to call you Omar Zini's mentor. That's really what I want to call you, because from what I've heard, Omar will literally call you at like 2 a.m. or text you at like 3 a.m. with just he'll be like, I just have an idea, just a slight adjustment to this session right here. And you're just like, man, I created a monster here. I don't know I didn't know what Pandora's box I was opening.
Yeah, we've had some good conversations at all hours of the day, that's for sure. And when Omar goes on his rants and you look down at your phone, you see 15 missed text messages, you know he's on my phone.
Very true.
I mean, I looked at my phone yesterday and there was like 25 missed text messages from Saskia and Omar between each other, and I was like, geez Louise, like what am I missing out on right here? All I did was watch TV for like an hour.
It was just a group text.
Just a middleman.
I was just on there. Guys, before we get into today's topic, guys, which is going to be creating space off the ball in possession. Chris, for maybe some of the people who are out there who might kind of not be familiar with kind of your role with the Rapids, which is not just being the goalkeeper coach. Obviously, you're first assistant as well too. You're the goalkeeping director for the academy as well, and then obviously you have your own private academy. Why don't you kind of run down a little bit about what you do there?
Yeah, well, as you said, Mike, my primary role is obviously with the first team, the goalkeeper coach for the first team. But prior to that, and when I was still playing, I was and still am the director of goalkeeping for the development academy as well. So U12 or U13 now all the way through to U19s. I also am the director of goalkeeping for the Rapids Youth Soccer Club. So I started that job way back when I was playing back in 2008, and obviously it's just evolved. The club's gotten bigger and been more roles in there. So I've just, I like, look, you talk about all things goalkeeping, anything to do with Colorado Rapids and goalkeeping, that's kind of my niche. And, I love it. And fortunately enough, I've got a great staff of goalkeeper coaches around me at the youth club. But then also too, back in 2008, we created a core goalkeeper academy, which, there was kind of a need for goalkeepers and goalkeeper coaching in the state of Colorado. And we created that. And, fortunate enough, again, I can't talk highly enough about the coaching staff I have around me for that as well. We've got coaches from all different clubs in Colorado, and we just offer supplementary training programs for the kids, year round. So it's just a place for them to come and hone their skills on goalkeeping only, and not worry about the pressures of the environments of club and high school football. And really, we've just it's taken off, and it's been a very, very enjoyable venture for all of us involved so far.
I love what you just said right there. And, honestly, obviously, as Omar and myself, we do a lot of private training as well with kids from different clubs. And myself personally, I don't really have any desire to go back to the club environment, and nothing against the youth club environment or whatever but the amount of kids that I've been able to affect, and Omar, I'm sure you can attest for this as well too, by being able to work with kids from different clubs, different backgrounds, different levels of ability. It really stretches you, not just as a coach, but also just as like Omar, you were talking about being a mentor, Chris Sharpe being a mentor to you, as a mentor to a lot of kids that you might not have ever been exposed to if you were just working at one club, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's look, I love just teaching. I love teaching. I love learning, and I think Omar and I've had a million discussions about this, over the last few years. But for me, if we can affect young kids, and I'm a big person, not only just on the football field, but off the football field as well. And, part of the core program is, we're very big on mentoring kids away from the football field too. So what we, designate in our time with them on the field, we're hoping that they can take away off the football field as well, and use that in their everyday life, whether it's decision making and, just self-confidence and little snippets of what we bring on as a goalkeeper and goalkeeper coaches and mentors, trying to allow them to take that away in their everyday schooling life, job life, home life, friends life, which I think, like you just said, is a massive piece to, having a small effect on, someone's pathway.
Oh my God. I mean, absolutely. And like, I mean, Omar, I mean, we've talked about this, we've had this discussion because I think a lot of times, maybe when you were starting out your career, you were thinking about just the football aspect with when you were working with these goalkeepers, and you were seeing them kind of the way, and this is not in like in a derogatory way. You were seeing them like as in what you wanted out of your goalkeeping career, as opposed to like what they want out of their goalkeeping career. And how much of kind of like, just learning from coaches such as Chris or Saskia, really affected you and how you approach these kids now with their off the field mentoring.
No, I mean, you couldn't have said it any better than that. I think, watching Chris last year in his preseason here, just, getting guys like Abraham. And I remember, a young goalkeeper, him stepping into the first team environment. I'm sure he did it a lot, but when Chris brought him in, and then I saw Chris leave the group and all the older guys came over and started, helping Abraham with certain things. I asked him in our podcast, Chris, I said, are you creating a culture here, or is that something that just kind of, with the work that you guys do, it slowly builds itself? He said, no, I mean, yeah, it'll build itself if you really plant the seeds from the beginning and, develop that foundation. And, we all know Big Joe, maybe Chris doesn't, but, Joe Velasco, he always pressures me too. He says, look, man, when you come out to this field, a lot of these kids, don't have the best relationships with their parents sometimes or their siblings, and this is their escape. And for you to ask them, hey, how are you doing? And really actually mean it, sincerely mean it, those kids will come and work for you every single day of the week. And I think, again, what Chris said and then what Joe said, and kind of putting that all to perspective, now I kind of realized, yeah, it shouldn't just be a means to an end. Like if you are, then you're just like everybody else who does it for a means to an end. And no disrespect to people that do good. I mean, you have to do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, if you're out there, it's got to be intentional. And as Chris always says, being deliberate of what you do, and don't just step on the field and, put some balls and then do your work and then leave. It's actually taking the time away and having those conversations that hopefully will resonate with those kids. And then when they go to college, they'll be speaking about, yeah, Coach Chris, Coach Omar, Coach Sas, Coach Mike, they were really, really cared about me, and it meant the world to me. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, Saskia, you brought up literally, I think it might have been the Rob podcast, Rob Vartugian from NYCFC. You brought up, hey, if you have time to, watch film, of professional goalkeepers at home to make yourself the best goalkeeper coach you can be or whatever, you have time to call these kids and ask them how they're doing and what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I think for Chris and for me with college, these kids, it's their first time away from their parents and away from home, and that brings a whole nother issue in its own. And so if you are just like clocking in and clocking out, you're never going to get that connection. You're never going to get the best you can from them. Like you have to take the time. You have to, they have to learn to grow up. You can't be like a surrogate parent the whole time, but at the same time, there's more to it than just doing your drills.
Yeah. And by the way, Chris, feel free to step in any time. But, one of the things when I was watching, the sessions that you did with Omar, and honestly, thank you so much for taking the time with Omar last year and allowing him to film your sessions and to sit down with him for all that time and really break down what you guys were doing there. But what I saw with, that young Abraham, to be a teenager in that environment, that can be terrifying, man. That can be terrifying to a kid like that, when he sees these guys on TV and now he's training with them right then and day in and day out. And for you to be able to develop that type of culture there where those older guys are not only looking after him, but he also knows that he can ask them questions. He can ask you questions or whatever. And I don't want to use it. I mean, it sounds cheesy, a safe space, but it is a safe space. It's a safe space for him to learn and to make mistakes and to keep growing as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, I think, look, the safe space is massive. I think for any young goalkeeper coming, or any young player coming into a first team environment, if they feel safe and comfortable, not in the sense of like everything's easy, but if they feel comfortable enough to ask questions, turn to, someone like Clint or someone like Will, and, ask them what they thought, what they're thinking, which Abraham is. Now, look, another side of it too there's a whole different other side of it too, that Abraham is where he is because he has that self-belief. You know what I mean? He's not really wavering in his own self-belief. Where do I really belong here? I think that's a system that we've really done well at the Rapids, which is bringing and bleeding our young players into that first team, whether they're goalkeepers or not. I just mentioned to you before we started this about the young boy potentially coming in preseason with us. I mean, he was in last year, young U19 goalkeeper, being the national team. He's not short of self-confidence either, but those areas that we try and embody them in as young players, where, I want them to lead the group. I want the older boys and more senior boys in the academy to lead the groups. The 15 through 19s training together, the 12 through 14s training together. I expect the senior boy to be the leader in that group and feel like he's been in that spot before where he's asked the questions, so when he now becomes the little fish in the big pond, when he jumps up to the first team, he feels like he did 3 or 4 years ago. Oh, I know this situation, just in a bit of a different environment, but I still feel like I can ask those questions or feel comfortable enough to be mentored by these guys around. And look, to be honest with you too, it's part of the personnel we have in the first team. We're building a club based on culture. Our first team's based on culture. And my goalkeepers, I can't ask for any more. When it comes to stuff like that, they're very much team guys. They're very much bought into the culture that Omar just mentioned about what we're trying to build as a club, especially for the goalkeepers. And they're very, very good with the young guys, which is always lovely to see.
Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
Chris, I just want to ask you a question. For me, one of my biggest downfalls, I'm working on it, but it's that impatience. Sometimes I'll get the older
Omar,
group.
this counts as a question to Chris today, by the way, on outside of the podcast.
No, I haven't hit my quota for the month yet. A new month just rolled around, everything reset. No, but Chris, you coach from the highest of high levels, the first team, and then after that, the academy, and then you have core goalkeeping as well, who you have young kids down to 10 years old, maybe even younger. How have you been able to temper those expectations? I'm sure it's hard when you get the first team guys, they do everything right. And then you get the younger ones in the academy. And again, they have so many things involved with, they're going through puberty. They, had at school today and whatever the case may be. So how are you able to is it just meshing with the personalities, or do you set the tone from the beginning, or do you see how they react on the day, how they're feeling? How do you temper your expectations and mold the goalkeepers on a day-to-day basis?
Right. I think for me, and I think we've discussed this before too, for me with the academy, away from the core goalkeeping stuff, for me for the academy, it's treating my U12s the same way as I would treat Tim Howard, Will Yarbrough, Clint Irwin. You know what I mean? I mentioned before, I have an expectation for our 12-year-olds that is the same for the first team guys. I want to communicate with those guys daily. I put a thing in place at the beginning of every season where I don't really want to communicate with the parents. I want to communicate with you guys. If you're sick, if you're injured, if you're ill, if you've got homework, if you've got assignments, and just build myself through that as a coach. They have expectations that I expect of them, and I hold them to that. And I think from there, you start to mold yourself in as a coach in different areas of their development, and obviously we're still developing the first team. Just because they're in the first team doesn't mean they're not developing or they're stopped developing, and Tim Howard's a great example of that. I got him at 36 years old. We sat down. I thought there was things we could continue to move in his game, and we did, and he was unbelievable with it. But if T Howard can do that, my expectation all the way down is that everybody can find a way. And it's great for me too, because I'm learning. Tim taught things about me that I never thought before, and as has Clint, as has Will. So, I think finding your expectation is not just on the football field. I think it's what we set them off the football field, how we want them to interact with themselves as goalkeepers and each other and their teammates and their coaches. And you build yourself on that. Now, the core goalkeeping stuff is more interpersonal relationships, as far as knowing different kids, because you've got a whole different a temperament in there. They're coming from different areas. And like Mike said, you've got kids that don't have great relationships with their parents, may be struggling in school. They may have, separation from, grandma might be over there. We have COVID. We have kids that haven't seen each other for long time in the last 12 months. So I think it's just, that's why I go back to my staff. It's having good people around us that can mesh those moments together to make sure the kids are getting the most out of the sessions themselves. But I think for the rapid side of it, building a culture starts from the first team down, and the expectations are laid out to everybody that they are the same. My 12-year-old goalkeeper is getting treated the same way as my first team goalkeeper, and those expectations are the same all the way through. So then they can, I have then a nice platform to build from.
Yeah. I want to, before we kind of move on to the topic, Saskia, I just kind of want to ask you real quickly, because obviously you're in a very high level, the highest level college environment. How important is it, like, what Sharpe's obviously talking about in regards to, that relationship of the olders, helping out with the youngers and everything like that. Obviously it's a little different dynamic in college, they're a little bit closer in age, but those juniors and seniors, like if it's the UCLA culture for them to be helping those freshmen, because the thing is that there's no worry. If you're going to UCLA, like, you'll get your, if you keep putting in the work, and your time will come. You get the best of the best to come into that program. Your time will come. So it's up to them to prepare them for that next step, because they're getting ready to try to play at the professional level.
Yeah, I mean, and just watching like Lauren right now, the way she works with the younger goalkeepers, knowing that she sat behind Tegan and put her time in and learned from Tegan, and now stepping into that leadership role within our core, within our union, that is the culture, and that is what you want to see. And the good thing is these, if the young goalkeepers come in, they know they're gonna sit. Like, I hope my recruits aren't watching right now. They know, whether it's some people redshirt, whatever it is, but it's kind of you have to learn, you have to have that transition. But if you don't have an older keeper that is a mentor and takes on that role, then you're going to run into a problem. Like if you have the type of environment where they don't care, all they care about is themselves and making themselves better, that's just going to filter down, and that is unacceptable to me, period. You can go sit on the bench and I'll start a freshman. That's part of your growth. That's part of being a natural leader on the field in the position that we're in as goalkeepers. And watching Lauren take that over is awesome. It's awesome. And watching the players that we bring in, we pick our players specifically so they can handle that, so they can handle somebody that's not that many years older than them, helping mentor them, and know that one day, like you said, that's going to be them. So,
yeah.
So Mike, I got a question for Sass. Sass, when you guys are recruiting the goalkeepers, what are your, and obviously it's a little bit different, obviously in college, and to going out and recruiting kids, especially at the moment. But what are you guys like specifically looking for when you're looking for culture, as far as what the goalkeeper is going to bring to the program, so you guys can excel in that?
Technically, I can't answer. Yeah, how do I answer that without not answering it? Well, just because you're the best player, just because you're the best goalkeeper in the country, doesn't mean you're going to UCLA. Right. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And Amanda and I came from a culture with the U.S. team that, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the individual best players on the field. It was the best team, and that's a fact. And so we look for players that fit into this environment, that fit into, it's a family. You don't come in here, like, don't come going, well, I want to come to a school where I know I'm going to start. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because it's all about you. And you got to come and you got to realize that this is a place where you're going to work your ass off, and you have to connect off the field as well as on the field with the players, and realize you're going to have to, bide your time and learn, because it's a shock. You're going from club, and listen, no knock on other schools and stuff like that, but you are coming to the best team in the country. So you're going from club to the number one team in the country. Sorry. And anybody can argue with me right now. I know we're ranked 3, but that whatever. But no freshman's going to be legitimately prepared for that, and prepared for the speed and the change of play and everything. So we look for, those well-rounded kids academically, personally, everything. socially, the whole 9 yards.
No, just interesting to me. Recruitment. I'm.
We've turned away recruits. Like
Yeah,
we've had discussions and then had a discussion amongst ourselves saying just not the mentality, the mentality that's going to fit here. I don't care how good you are.
I find the recruitment side of football very interesting. You know?
Yeah, and some coaches will say, "Oh, she's number one. That's it. I want her. Boom." You know, and it doesn't work that way.
It's not just culture, isn't it? It's style of play, the way you guys want to play. If they fit in, if they don't fit in, you know, you can tell. I mean, for me personally, in the first 5-10 minutes of watching someone, you know whether they're going to be on your radar or not.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah. Go ahead, Omar.
Just want to add on to that. I think, we'll jump into the topic after. I think, again, to Chris and to Sas part, I think it's a question that a lot of kids never ask, and they should, is like, how do I get recruited to a Division I school or to a top school? And it's like, okay, if you're good enough, or you know you're on their radar, you should also be very like picky about who the goalkeeper coach is. Like, I don't think enough kids do their research on that, because like we've been saying, the goalkeeper coach more often than not is the person you're going to be spending the most time with, and you're going to be spending a lot of those growing pains with. I know my goalkeeper coach at UC Davis had to guide me through almost failing out. And he's like, this is not soccer related, but I got to put my arm around this kid or else we lose him. So just those kind of conversations. And then at the same time too, what kind of training do they have? Do they have training that's going to stimulate you throughout the whole season? Are they going to take care of you in the off season? Are they going to actually put a program together to develop you? And like Chris said, it's like those constant conversations where you're developing the culture, not just of, you know, hey, we did a great job this year, rest on your laurels, go vacation, we'll see you in a few months. Yeah. It's more like, no, here's the program that we got to, you know, continue with, come in shape. Because if you don't, as you know, this program, everyone, like Abraham, for example, I mean, that kid has a fight, he's a dog in him, man. And I know for a fact, those older guys are like, yeah, you know, he is younger, but this kid could potentially come in here. Right. And if we take, take our foot off the gas. So I think that's a big question as well for these young kids in the recruitment process, is find out who the goalkeeper coach is, find out, as well as we're looking for those personality traits from you, find out if the personality traits of the goalkeeper coach are aligned with how you want to be coached. And it's tough because you don't have that mental awareness. I didn't, at least at that young of an age, but maybe your parents or anybody who's listening to this who can kind of guide those younger goalkeepers. I think that's a massive, massive point that we often overlook.
I think for me, like, no matter where I was, but for me, like, are you gonna clock in and clock out and that's it? Or are you gonna put the extra work in when I'm not around, when you're not on the field with me and stuff like that? And when I see young kids, and I'm looking at somebody that's on the podcast right now watching, it's a good example. When I see players put in that extra work and take it seriously, and whether it's going out to the park and hitting long balls, or finding a goalkeeper coach, or like doing privates, or finding another sport to play, or just finding other ways to hone your skills as a goalkeeper when you're not in front of the team, when you're not around, that says a lot to me, that like commitment.
Absolutely.
Don't always expect me to get you ready.
Right. Yeah. Don't be having us ask you if you want extra work.
Exactly.
Come to us and say, I need this, I want this. Look at your backgrounds, by the way, pal.
And exactly. And Lauren's a great example of that, because her distribution, I wasn't here when she first came in, but I know her distribution wasn't very good. And now her distribution is ridiculous. Right. And that has nothing to do with like Jenny staying on the field with her when Jenny was a coach doing kicks no, that was her knowing us, telling you got to get better at this, and her finding a way. And
Yeah, I remember we like 4 years ago, we had a goalkeeper, Zach McMath, who's now at Salt Lake, and his feet are fantastic, got phenomenal feet. Part of the reason why we brought him in. I remember him, he was at Maryland, wasn't there for very long, but he used to tell me that he would go out the back of the school against the wall, take a bag of balls and just clip left-footed balls hours on end. And it showed when he got to the pro level, it showed both his feet were as good as each other, and what you just talk about there, little things that stick in my mind where, okay, now you're at the professional level, it shows, because what you did back then actually makes a massive difference.
Absolutely.
You're getting moved,
Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of all this, guys, I mean, honestly, Sharpe, this was a great transition right there when you started going with the feet right there. And also, a lot of people might be saying like, all this talk about, culture and mentorship and all that stuff. How's that have anything to do with creating space off the ball? A lot, because the thing is that the only way to be able to understand how to move off the ball is dependent on understanding the system of play that you play, having a connection with your players, being able to communicate, having foot skills. So it all kind of blends together. And Sharpe, kind of as we kind of go into this topic right now, which I think is really important, and I think more young goalkeepers need to really learn about. What do we kind of mean by creating space off the ball when we're in possession?
I think, well, as you and I were talking about earlier today, I think it's a massive topic. You can pull it apart, or you can, kind of talk in general terms. But for me, you mentioned their style of play. I think for every young goalkeeper, they're in a team that has a different style of play. I think first and foremost, it's understanding the way that the team wants to play. It's understanding about how you can help the group be basically the 11th player, understand how maybe, Saskia and myself, we've got the opportunity to review film of the team that we're going to be playing against, how they may press, how we can have an advantage of being numbers up at the back there, whether it's us, the two centre backs, the six, the outside backs. So I think the creating space is a very big topic, but it is, for me, it is the ability for us to A, be the 11th player, B, understand what our relationship is to the players around us in the build-up. Even in open play as well, balls get clipped over the top, back four are facing you, you regain possession in transition, depth, height, the east and west movements of the goalkeeper that allow us as goalkeepers to help the next ball be successful for the player, to give them the best opportunity to play the ball on with. I think a lot of the times, young goalkeepers think, oh, I've got the ball, I'm just going to get rid of it, and that's it. I'm good with it. But for me, it is assessing, scanning the field, and allowing the player that you're giving the ball to the best opportunity to have the most amount of time on the ball to give the next pass that you're looking at, or you seeing something that allows you to go through them to the next person. Look, again, massive topic, broad topic. But for me, that's what I do when I'm building my sessions. And Robbie used it great last week in his little time on here, that creating the space in the shape that we want to build out from, in the shape that we want to, use when we regain possession in transition, to allow us to use the goalkeeper in the best way possible, whether it's to break lines, keep possession, try and start a counter attack, whatever that might look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Like, I think if we go back to even like the recruiting aspect or anything, like, or just seeing players play, like, there's a huge difference between, getting the ball at your feet and just hitting it. And you see video and you see things of kids and in whether it's the coach's mentality or whatever, saying, oh, great, great. I'm like, what was the purpose behind that? Like, sometimes put it in the upper rafters or just send it long if it calls for it. But if that's all you're doing, that's not being that 11th player. That's not working within your system. That's not understanding that, the 8 might be open because of the system that the team's playing against you, and being able to recognize that, or like slowing the game down, taking the space, like, and having the confidence with your feet to be like, I've always said, you're the first pass on attack, so how are you going to implement that pass so, we can go? And if you're just like kicking the ball really far and just like you said, just, all right, now you guys deal with it, you'll figure it out. Like, that's not having that soccer knowledge and that intelligence.
Yeah. Omar, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Chris, on one of our Q&As during the COVID time, I think we're talking about, like, what do you look for when you're breaking down film or when you're watching somebody's film? And I think one point that you made was, I want to see that IQ. I want to see what you do when that ball comes to you. Are you shifting everybody to the right so you can play to the left? And little things like that. Are you pushing, are you playing it short so you can suck the right defender or the right striker stepping forward, and you can dip that ball over the top to your left mid? So questions like that were, to me, I was like, damn, I feel like when I watch that film, not enough kids showcase that. So, I mean, how important for everyone, I guess, on the panel, do you guys think that is, though? Do you think that's something that, just comes out naturally and you have to kind of see it in person, or is that something you can actually show in the film?
I think you can absolutely show it on the film, but I also think, that's got to be part of your team training as well. Like, you
100%.
This is something that, like, knowing who we're playing against, whether it's, the reserve team, is in their system, and where those openings are, and what we can utilize, and mimicking the other team, so that you understand where the zones are that you can put the ball into, what's going to be free all the time, what to look, those are things that you can show on film, which we do, but then we also train it.
Yep.
we train it. Like,
Yeah.
But I will say one thing right here, you know, and Sharpie, I don't know how you feel about this as well too, or Omar or Saskia, but like personally, I think one of the biggest issues is that at the youth level, you know, at the youth level, a lot of times the reason goalkeepers don't know how to move off the ball is because they are not incorporated into activities properly in their team sessions.
God,
They're
no,
either
by the time they get into their team sessions, they're doing shooting.
Exactly. There's no build, there's no possession play. They don't incorporate them, and the coach doesn't work with. And if you're a young coach out there and you're not a goalkeeper coach or whatever, and you say, well, I don't understand that position. Well, you understand football, you understand soccer. Teach your goalkeeper how to move as if they're a field player, as if they're an outfield player in possession, because that's really what we're talking about here, you know. And don't have your goalkeeper moving laterally, because I think that's one of the biggest issues. Is I see so many goalkeepers, it's just lateral movement, lateral movement, lateral movement, and that's not realistic.
My funny thing, my keepers hate it though. They hate it because like I'll have 3 of them and we'll be training and I have to send somebody like have to send Lauren over to do that work, like to do the 11th man work and to work on, you know, building out of the back and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we're like, I have the other ones training and, you know, they're just biting at the bit because they want to train. But guys, what are you doing 90% of, what are you doing 90% of the game? I'm like, if you're saving a ball that we're doing here 90% of the game, we have a huge problem. 90% of the game, you are that 11th man. You are the one using your feet. You are the one, you know, with the distribution, playing, moving off the ball. So you have to do it. It's not just going to happen.
I think for us as coaches, as goalkeeper coaches too, when we're doing that, you know, we all know that when we're doing it in our specific environment, it's very hard to sometimes emulate because you don't have pressure. You don't have people in places that maybe you're seeing on the weekend. You know, so something I've kind of honed in on the last 3 or 4 years is every time we do, you know, what I call the goalkeepers passing patterns, you know, which is always in the framework of what we're trying to do in our build up as a group, as a team, is moving the ball with purpose. And your movements are for a reason. You know, if you're going, like, let's say this morning, great example. This morning, we finished our session with just 2 passing patterns, first day of preseason. The boys went out to the right center back into them, out of the 6, back into them, and then out to the opposite 6. And it was quite simple, but it was just, I'm asking them for movement, for purposeful movement of the ball, to get their touches right, and for them to be scanning as they're moving, not receiving from the center back, then looking up, then playing at the 6, then receiving from the 6, then looking up, then playing at the opposite 6. They're actually scanning on what they're doing. So maybe that picture changes. Their movement over the 6-7 yards from right center back to the 6 who's pulled into the left pocket. As they're scanning the field, they might be thinking, oh, I'm going to go to the opposite 6, but that picture might change. Now they're going into the pocket for the 8. You know what I mean? So it just, for me, you know, in our time that we can spend on, you know, the passing patterns, you know, and obviously trying to incorporate some sort of a distribution in everything we do now, but just the purposeful movement of the ball, like Omar suggested, I'm shifting the ball to the right center back because I want their group to go 3 or 4 yards. So when I get it back, now I'm looking to the left side fullback. You know what I mean? And it's just those moments to get them thinking, okay, I'm doing this not just to give him the ball to see what he does with it, but I'm doing this because I see a 2v1 on the outside with the wide player. I see, you know, if they shift to the right 6 or 7 yards just by me playing the ball 3 or 4 yards, then we're going out this side, you know. And that's, I think, like Sas said, sometimes for them, those guys going in and doing it for the team, it's massitive for them just to understand relationships and depth and space and movement and just those things that make massive difference.
Yeah, no, I love what you said about, like, maybe there is a 2v1. Like I said, it's purposeful. Yeah. You know, you know, where are you sending this ball? You know, how can this ball all of a sudden put us penetrating into their defensive third and into our attacking third? Like, you know, quick transition with a purpose. And it's not robotic in a sense. Oh, I got the ball from here and now I'm just going to touch and go there because that's what I'm supposed to be. That might not be the answer either. You know, sometimes you might have to go up the center. You might have to go to the 9, you know, because that's the best pass. But you have to take that snapshot. You have to see what's going on in front of you.
Yeah, you know, and I think I know, Omar, I don't know how you feel about this. You know, I think we might have had this discussion before in the past, but personally, I think one big issue is that a lot of times is that goalkeepers, they don't understand how their team moves. They're never taught how their team moves, and because of that, they don't know how to move with their team. So let's say, Sharpe, you're talking about like let's say you're a youth coach and you're training the goalkeepers, and you're incorporating all those patterns in your training session. Then they go off to their team, but there's not a synchronicity between the two. They're playing a completely different way, and it's a different system than how you're training with the goalkeepers that you have. And again, that's one of the difficulties of us as private coaches, simulating that realistic environment, because we have a hodgepodge of goalkeepers from different environments. Omar, is that a situation that you've dealt with a lot?
Yeah, I think. You can never really, get it perfectly. It's kind of, we always talk about how young kids, they take everything you say as a coach as fact.
Literal.
Yeah, it's very, very literal. And then when they step into the game, it's like, well, that didn't happen the way that it was supposed to happen. So I think it's got to be a mix of the two, where, you give them the opportunity to see different passing patterns and to play different balls. They know exactly what to do. Like Chris said, when you scan and you're finding an opportunity to, okay, the 6 is off. Okay, the 8 was on the last time I checked. Let me clip that ball into there. Okay, he's off. Let me go to the right back. So I think the opportunity to work on the technical aspect of it is one thing, but also too, we got to put some onus on the kids and ownership on the kids as well. To like, I watch games all the time and I see Pickford, for example. He doesn't find these great passes short. He goes long every single time to Calvert-Lewin, and then that's how the team is set up. So if I had Pickford in one session versus Mendy or Ederson, I'm pretty sure if
I'd like to watch that session.
Exactly.
That would be very interesting. But that's what it is, though. It's like you look at it, for example, like I said.
Omar, did they DM you for a private session? Is that what's going on?
Hey, I would be pretty sick.
Doing all right, huh, guys?
But yeah, I think again to that point though, it's like you see someone like Pickford who has great feet, but he's not always going to showcase it to us, because what's best for his team is to play that ball long and then win the knockdown. And they actually beat Southampton today 1-0 because of that. So I think that's a big thing as well. When you get that hodgepodge of kids who all have different systems of play, I think what you're introducing to them, they should be able to understand, this is what I should take from this session, filter in and out what my team does, and then from there I'll be able to apply it. But again, like I said, I don't know if a lot of kids are like addicted to goalkeeping like all of us are, who they'll run into sessions and go, okay, well my team doesn't do this, but they do a little bit of this. So let me ask Coach Omar if I can get more reps on this. And I think again, that has to come from the ownership of the kids, for their ownership of their own development, I feel.
Yeah. I think one of the other big things for coaches out there and stuff like that is you've got to do this like game speed. Like, like even today we were working on, we started with distribution with footwork as part of their warm up. And I got on my other keepers because they were not pinging the ball back like hard. I'm like, no, this has to, guys, can't roll in some fluff ball right now because technically we didn't have pressure. It was more movement based and finding the space and getting yourself in the right position and then transition and then change the point. But I was like, but this has to be like a back pass with purpose, as well as your outlet has to be with purpose. Like it can't be like underwater. It can't, because it's not realistic. And it, you have to try to come as close to game speed and game pressure that you can in those situations. Else, here you're hitting all these little back passes and they're touching it and they're kicking it. And then they get in the game and then it's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
Right. And I think too, Sas, on that point, and I'm always on the guys about this. So for today, goalkeeper starts with the goal kick, plays it out to right centre back. The right centre back is actually one of the goalkeepers.
Right.
The 6 is actually one of the goalkeepers. So I'm asking those guys to touch play like they're in real time too. You know what I mean?
No, exactly.
Take a touch, take a couple steps, whip it back in. They're getting extra reps on their quick feet as well. And great example this morning. This is just leads into the best thing ever. Ball goes in. We did a little one just clipping it out to the left and right outside back. But ball goes in. I think it was Will. In the wheel, out to the short player, sets him, and he clips it out to Abe. And Abe's, 35, 40 yards away from him. And the ball's coming at Abe's chest, and Abe catches it. And I went, just bring it down. Work on your first touch as well. I know you can catch a ball, but just work on your first touch. Body shape, bring it down, nice under control, leave the ball there. You're about to get 24 reps of people knocking balls in at you. Just bring the ball down, And it's just little moments like that you can work on something else in your game as well, even when you just to be a target. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's huge. Those moments are huge.
Yeah, and also too, I think when it comes to distribution, like I guess, you have to create space to find the ball, but the final action, sometimes I think a lot of people, yes, you should train it, like Sas said, at game speed. But I see a lot of times too, even when this, like the side volley became so big, I started seeing people go, oh, it has to be on a laser. It has to be on a perfect dime. I'm like, no, but did you see Kendall McIntosh? I think it was like 2017 World Cup, Youth World Cup. He was hitting balls in behind into the perfect space. It wasn't a driven ball. He was just clipping it over the top, and it caused so much danger for the opposing defenders. So again, it's like not so much about the aesthetic, but it's like, okay, you created the space. Now the technical aspect of it, just get the job done with the pass. And I feel like, again, that is another conversation in its own right. But I think a lot of people look at the aesthetic, which is actually, in my opinion, does a disservice to the actual service. Just be effective with it.
Oh, we got a clip.
We got a clip. Speaking of Abe, we're gonna show a little bit of Abe right here. This is from Colorado Springs. Essentially, Sharpe, you probably will know this clip better than me, but this is a great example right here, basically, of what happens is I think center back plays the ball back to Abe, creates space. Boom, right there. Now, I want to break it down very much from the very beginning. Basically, what happens here is there's chase on him from the top of the box, top of the 18. Omar, let me know if I'm doing okay. Top of the box right out here. So Abraham recognizes, instead of staying high, that he needs to drop and he needs to create depth. He needs to create depth to allow himself time to create space, to manipulate, because the second he plays that ball back, there's going to be immediate chase on him as that angled run is coming towards him. He recognizes that by creating that space deep. And as the player comes in, he has the space to escape, chase, and then play a nice clean ball through right there. Omar, how'd I do? Sharpe, how'd I do?
You're great.
You know what? This is a good clip, Mike. And this is something, actually, it goes back onto what I was talking. I had a session last week with my DA boys leading into their first game of the weekend. And we did a lot of distribution early in each session. But we were talking about stuff like this. And I love this clip for two reasons. Number one, obviously, what you've just said. He creates himself some depth, creates himself a little bit more time for the guy to flow onto him, which he does. But I've had this conversation with a lot of people. Is it best, if you can rewind it back to when the centre back turns to face Abe, is it best here for Abraham to peel out to his right? And I'm going to ask you, Omar, I'm going to ask you this question. So let it roll.
Okay.
I love that everybody tests Omar.
Stop there. Hold there.
Okay.
Would it be better for Abe to open up towards the right post or his right-hand side to give himself a little bit more time, or to do exactly what he did?
In my opinion, I think this is one of those balls that maybe you take an outside of the foot just to kind of like curl it away from you a little bit more. So now the defender or the striker has to take more of a delayed approach. In my opinion, I think he kind of played it in a position where the striker didn't have to take too much of a detour. He went straight at him.
Right.
But I think what Chris's question is should he have opened up space more?
Oh, I got it.
To the he comes
yes.
central and towards the, as opposed to staying. See how he's coming this way?
Yeah, 100%. I think
yeah.
No, I just think right there too. Yeah, a little bit further. I'm sure he's done this before, but yeah, probably like outside the post, just to give himself the security of that ball not popping over, because we know that little goalkeeper area right there is always not great.
I also think the ball, but I think I'm kind of interested, because if you look at his position there, he's got himself more time. But I think the ball actually brought him over.
100%. I agree, Sass.
The back pass actually brought him into a bad position.
Let me throw this in. And I was going through this last week with my young development goalkeepers at will. If you roll it back to when he turns, Mike.
Okay.
So free there. That's perfect.
Okay.
What happens, for whatever reason right now, the centre back slips, the ball gets under hit, the guy pinches the ball from his feet. Is Abe now in the best position to protect his goal first before he opens up to create himself some more space? Yeah, and this is what we were battling with last week. If the boy turns and has 10 yards of space, it's a different story, I think, to open up. But if the lad is 3 yards from him, give or take, if he's tight to him, I think Abraham's movement has to be central.
Yes.
Because he has to protect his goal first with the guy that tight. And it was a conversation. It's a great clip. It was a conversation that spurned with a bunch of my coaches last week, because I feel that Abraham did the right thing in this moment. And what we were doing last week was protect your goal first. In the transition moments or under pressure, protect your goal first, give yourself some depth, and then you can open yourself up left or right here.
Yeah.
It's a great clip.
Yeah. I mean, well, I've never heard Omar say it's a great clip before, so I'm very proud of myself right there. So
I always say it's a good. I say you do a great job with your research.
Oh my God. Two of you.
Sharpe, that's really interesting, and honestly, my head just exploded because I hadn't recognized that. I hadn't recognized that.
Well, because you have some
regard.
coaches that would be like, okay, open yourself up wide and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But I agree, that's too tight. It's too
Mhm.
tight. If he's 10 yards further, then fine, but because he can adjust. But it, like you said, if he mishits that ball, if he and you're too far, if you've opened up into the space too early and stuff, now you're scrambling. Or if for some reason, he gets that ball clipped, now you're out of position to deal with the player coming at you and stuff. It's too tight.
Yeah.
Watch your goal first. I agree with that.
Man. No.
I would do the opposite. I mean, I'd probably already have like my hips kind of turned and ready to run. I mean, again, that's what it comes down to the chemistry between you and your defenders. Like, as I've seen Kasper Schmeichel too, he runs to the opposite side of the 6-yard box, and that guy swings the ball all the way across to him. He has time, and again, if it's a new center back, maybe it's not the ball that he gets, but because he's played with the same guys almost the entire season, they have that kind of synergy.
But
and
had he gone more over, that ball wasn't hit back to him well. Like,
no, but I think if he had, I'd have to see where that ball initiated from. But if that ball was, if the center back had a little bit more time and Abe had more time to see that play develop, I'm sure he would have shifted over a little bit more. I didn't see like the full play, so maybe it was just a quick movement and he didn't have time to shift out of the 6. But in this play right here, it looked like it just happened so fast that he needed to protect his goal first before shifting over. I think if the play had more time to develop and he had more time to let his center back look up and find him, I'm sure he would have been on the other side again to create that space.
I think the center back's got less pressure on him too. That
exactly
dictates,
absolutely
the move.
Yeah. This is actually reminding me of like a few weeks back when we had Tommy Dutra on from Seattle Sounders, and he was bringing about the thing about how so many goalkeepers move farther than the play requires. Like
right.
they'll move ahead of the play. Right. And I think honestly, like myself personally in that situation, probably there, I would see myself shooting all the way across that goal, trying to get as far away from that goal as possible to create to create width. Yeah. No, seriously.
It's just the image in my head, correct?
I'm just sprinting all. He's at the end line, guys. He's at the end line.
Where did Michael go?
Mike, it goes into style of play again. So I've got a U13, our 2008 goalkeeper who plays for our development academy. His feet are ridiculous, and he plays as the third centre back. The two centre backs open up. They're U11 or U12 last year. Were playing 8v8 across the field. Now they're playing 11v11, and this kid is maybe 4'2", but his feet are ridiculous. But they split, the centre backs split far enough apart, and this kid comes right between the centre backs in their style of play, and he's just like it's all on him. But again, it goes back to what you said before: understanding what they are trying to achieve. Does he fit their style of play? Does he understand breaking lines, body shape, movement first, off the ball, putting people in positions that are going to help him get the ball to go somewhere else? It's a whole compilation of things. And I think that the movement off the ball piece, there's so many different aspects to it: pressure, time, space on the field, all different transitional moments. Are you in build up? Are you just regaining possession, in your middle third, whatever it looks like? That's all compiled together to get the answer of that specific moment.
Yeah, I love the fact that you just brought up transition, because now I want to go to the big boys. I want to go to William here, and I want to show an example here. Let's see if this clip's out halfway decent. Essentially, what happens here is oh boy,
up there, please. Just put your thumb over the scoreboard.
No one needs to see that. But essentially, what's going on right here is hold on, did I just lose the clip right there? Okay, so. Let me turn the volume down right here. So I think what happens here is that it's the 9, which is that, how do you pronounce it? Benezet. Yeah, Nicolas Benezet. He receives the ball. It's on a bounce right here. He kind of gets it. So now we're talking we're talking about out of possession into possession. Yep. And now as Williams sees him going down end line, it's just a slow creep, basically off his near post towards Benezet. But here's the thing where a lot of young goalkeepers do is I think they would attack that ball right there. He lets it go because he sees that he has space between him and number 17 right there. Yeah. And then as that ball comes in, this is confidence right here. He plays it with the outside foot, left foot, right outside, and cleared it right there. I mean, I think this is a brilliant play right here. Sharpe, thoughts?
Yeah. Just let it run. Let it run.
Let it run. Okay, let it run. Okay.
Let it run. Well, I think it's twofold there for me, you know, and Will be kicking himself.
Okay.
Because he's not put the ball in a good position.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I think for me, this goes with the personality of the goalkeeper. Will's feet are phenomenal. And you know, obviously, you know, we know him from Liga MX and their style of play, and that's why he's here. I've got two goalkeepers in Clinton and Will that are very, very good with their feet. For me here, you know, obviously most people are thinking right foot, put your foot through the ball, clear lines, squeeze up here. You know, I even dare to say that Will's probably thinking if you let it go here, Mike,
okay,
that he might even allow he might even take a touch onto his left foot there and let the ball go across. You know what I mean? He's that confident. You know,
right here.
He has that much space.
He has that much space, yeah, to open himself up, take a touch with his left foot, and then just absorb the pressure that's coming beyond Lalas there. You know, to give himself a little bit more time. You know, but I do agree with what you said here. You know, a lot of the young kids would be flying out of that position there. He's been a little bit cautious because of where the 17 is. I think it's number 17 between Lalas. Oh, it might be 13. I can't even see the back of his number there.
Right there, 17.
Yeah, number 17. Yeah, he's just obviously been a little bit cautious in case the ball is under hit from Nico. You know, he does still have to protect his goal. Obviously, if it gets pinched there, he's got Lalas to protect the back post. He's obviously just taking the near side. But I do think in hindsight, now that, you know, obviously Will be kicking himself where he put the ball, but I think too, he probably could have taken that touch out to his left there and absorbed a little bit of the pressure. I'm sure Lalas now, you know, it kind of impeded his run a little bit there and played it into a space that was best for us to kind of squeeze our lines and get behind it, you know.
I think that goes back to what you were saying about how the shape of the other team changes in the time that, and so using your peripheral, taking that quick, okay, here comes the ball, taking that quick, realizing I think it's the 15 isn't moving in on him, then would have realized he has time to come across his goal.
Yep.
Instead of kind of going on like this. It's like an oh shit in a sense because of the pass is, you know,
it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
It's a dangerous pass because he has to he's not sure what's going to happen with the 17.
Right.
And so, and that's close to giving the ball away let's be honest.
Yep.
So realizing that didn't happen, I think he probably I'm not going to speak for him, but he probably doesn't know where everybody else is in the box anymore.
Right. Well, I think too, if he comes on in that moment there, as it kind of crosses the 6-yard box, if he comes on towards us, like right here, I mean, that ball could easily get blocked. You know, he could play that right footer straight in the 17 and get blocked, which, you know, or he's putting it out like down where the camera crew is, down the bottom of the screen somewhere.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's I think what Mike was saying was that most kids would have just run at this
right
and tried to kick it, and then it could have been a debacle. But to have the patience to wait for it.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, his feet are good enough where he's probably gone, I can absorb this here a little bit longer than he can to go his left foot. And I'm sure, you know, you can see number 10, Renato, down here at the bottom of the screen. I'm sure Will would have liked to have put that beyond him, you know, behind us here.
I'm also actually kind of impressed with who's the center vet? Who's the guy right in front of
Lalas.
I'm surprised he didn't just put this over the line.
Right.
You see that he had the confidence in letting that ball go through the keeper, because a lot of defenders would have said shit and just put it over the line and put it out for a corner.
Right.
So that goes back to what you're saying, Omar, like knowing your team and having confidence in, all right, this is going to the keeper, he can handle it. I think a lot of backs would have put that out.
And you're wondering too at that moment as well what Will is saying to Lalas, like leave it, let it go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's obviously Lalas obviously heard something there.
Because he all of a sudden turns and he actually posts up against the 17.
17, yeah.
You know, what I loved about that play personally myself is that he recognized the second that 17 was coming onto that ball. He recognized the second that 17 did not have enough space to get to that ball before he can make a play on the ball. So you can kind of see that moment. Like, he's like, oh, he's not going to get it. It's not going to be a blocking situation for me right here where I'm going to have to come out, and make myself big. It's still going to be a pass back opportunity. And so he, at that moment, then starts making that slight adjustment to go across goal, waiting for his opportunity to get to that ball. And Sharpe, I understand what you're saying in regards to that. He had the entire other space. Now he could have trailed the ball, or he could have played it with his inside foot back to the outside foot, and then he had some time. But I mean, I can definitely understand I would have panicked. I would have probably been flying the ball. But that's me.
a lot of us would.
Those are the moments, that's what Sas was saying before. Those are the moments that you train for. You know what I mean? Like, you look at it in that small block there where Will doesn't creep too far beyond the post in case 17 does get a toe on it. And now Will's 2 or 3 yards outside of where he probably wants to be should the ball get turned over. He's crept a little bit thinking, okay, Nico might give me the ball here. Okay, it's on. He's giving himself a yard and a half outside the goal, but in a spot where if 17 does get a toe on it, he's still in a spot just to shift slightly to his left, and he's in a blocking position, opposed to being 3 or 4 yards outside the post. The 17 does get a toe on it, and now he's got too far to go.
Yeah.
I kind of want to turn it to the younger goalkeepers that are probably tuning in. I think we all agree. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I think we'd all agree that we'd rather have someone be super proactive about these situations of creating space, knowing that ball's bouncing to his a striker who's playing in the defensive end, and most likely is going to look for an outlet, and being proactive, knowing, okay, I'm going to be ready to show as an option, but at the same time not showing so far because you step too far and that ball goes across your body. Now you have to take an unnatural approach to it, and the striker might get there first. So I think, again, any young kids that are listening, as a coach too, I'd rather have a young kid who's always eager to find the ball, whether it's a 90th minute deep throw in for your team and you're running over taking the throw in. I used to do that. So somebody who's looking to get in the action and we can kind of tone it back, versus somebody who's just very timid and doesn't want the ball at their feet at all.
Yeah, I think that's personality too, isn't it?
Yeah. Sure.
I'm always, I asked Sas before about the recruiting part for what they're looking for in their culture. For me, as looking for young goalkeepers, is personality. I cannot give you personality. I can't give you. I can build your confidence. I'll give you technical. I'll give you the understanding of the football game, or the understanding of the goalkeeper, all the things that come in that. But I can't physically go, here's personality. Go out there and be the kid at the 90th minute to go and take the throw in, or talking and organising it. You know what I mean? That's a piece of it that comes with being a goalkeeper, or any probably successful football player. But it's a huge piece to, identify early in goalkeepers, whether they're going to have that about them. That's probably going to give them the ability to jump to the next level.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Omar.
No, I just, again, I kind of want to, just one last thing. For example, when I used to play too, again, now that I'm thinking about my personality aspect of it, is that I always knew that if I get myself in trouble because I don't have a left foot, I'm going to be ready. I have it now, but back then I didn't. I'm situations where I get a pass back, and I always tell my left back, I'm before the play even developed, where it's a short throw in, I'm you go, dude, I'm about to get this, and I'm playing it one time across my body, and I hope it gets to you, but you got to be there. So that ball would come in as a throw in. Instead of me turning and playing on my left, I'd one touch it across. And again, whether it's just me, trying to not be exposed or being proactive, I don't know. But it was always, okay, think one step ahead. What could potentially happen in the situation? And I think that, like you said, it comes down to personality, but also to, like you told me one time, Chris, you said, don't give corrections based on the way you played the game and the way you perceive the game. Give it on how the goalkeeper sees it. And I felt like that was damn, revelation for me, because a lot of times I'm bro, why aren't you asking for that ball? Go get it. And then at the end of the day, it's personality wise, they may not want to get that ball as much as I did. So I think that's a big part as well.
Dude, you just brought up something, Omar, that I think is just absolutely phenomenal. And I love it, because I was just thinking about that in regards to when we're talking about creating space, right? And off the ball movement, a lot of it, Sharpe and Saskia, is about basically, where do I feel comfortable receiving the ball? And if that's going to be a dangerous area for me based on where my confidence is and based on where I think my skill set is weak or whatever, I basically think that you need to kind of take that into consideration when you're working with these goalkeepers, and ask them, where do you feel comfortable? Where, like you were saying, Will feels confident right there. Maybe another goalkeeper doesn't.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but you gotta.
Go, Sas.
You gotta get confident.
Right.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, because you don't know what the game's going to throw at you. You
Yeah.
know?
I was just going to say, Sasha took it right out of my mouth. You have to find the ability to be comfortable in any situation.
Yeah.
And look, the biggest one I can think of is this, and this is a great. I think of it all the time watching on the sideline. Ball comes in from the right centre back to a goalkeeper who's right-footed, and they take their touch across their body on their left foot, and the striker's bearing down at them hard. And now what they're thinking? Crap! I've taken the ball into my weak foot here, and the only thing I've got to do is knock the ball long. And it's a habit. It's a training. It's a habit training where you receive the ball from the centre back, open your body up onto your left foot, and then practice clipping the ball out. It's every young goalkeeper working onto their weak foot's nightmare. Pressure, ball going to my weak side. I have to use my weak foot at the moment, and then I have to get it up and over somebody. Otherwise, it's going to turn into a situation, 1v1 situation. And again, like I said, you have to be comfortable in any moment. And it's just working on those things. It's going back to what Sash said earlier. Working on it on your own, working on it after practice, working on it before school, working on it before training. Like these little moments where it's such a simple thing. A touch, open your body, clip 30 yards into the outside back, clip 30 yards into the 7 or 11, whatever it is on your weak side. Because we're all comfortable doing it on our strong foot. Doesn't matter how old you are. You just want to go to your strong foot anyway.
Yeah. Real quick, sorry to touch on a point we talked about last week, Mike. I think it's also too, we talk about as well, we need to audit ourselves a lot as goalkeepers and understanding what does a scouting report say about Omar Zini? Well, he doesn't like the ball play to his right foot or to his left foot. He always likes to be forced to his right so he can play the ball and find opportunities. So for me, it's like, okay, damn, well, if the scouting report says that, they're going to force me to my left foot. So more likely than not, I need to understand, like Chris said, when that right center back plays me the ball, I'm probably going to take a touch with my right foot across my body. And now in that short period, we're in emergency mode. In my head, I've done that so many times. That ball's gotten played to my right foot. I played across to my left, and I'm like, okay, Omar, just get it above head height, and let's put it to the sideline.
But because you feel like that, everybody watching feels the same thing. It's like,
oh boy, oh boy.
Trust me, coaches are going. Tell me when it's over.
Yeah, I think, but that's what it is, though. I think again, I always use different sports, and I talk about basketball, for example. You can practice. A 3-point shot, practice the technique. It's great, but you actually need to practice about, being off balance now, using that at full speed. And if you don't train that and you only do it in games, you're never going to be able to get that same shot off because it's never going to be in a controlled environment. So yeah, go ahead, Sas.
You're absolutely right. I mean, like scouting report 100%. I watch the goalkeepers from the other teams and I watch that and I'll be like, what do you guys notice?
Yep.
What do you notice? She's not that strong with her feet. Right? She gets her first touch is bad, so she gets the ball caught under. So what are we going to do in that situation? We're going after her.
Every week.
Every week. Absolutely. Yeah, we're absolutely going after her. Mia, go.
Yep.
Raylan, go. Put pressure on her. She's going to be nervous as hell. And if she does get it off, it's going about 30 yards. So we're getting that ball. And yes, yeah. Omar, put it on his left foot.
Hey. Let me just say, the updated scouting report.
To his left, pressure.
Updated scouting report's a little bit nicer. I'll tell you that.
No, I mean you can tell. I mean, Sharpe, you can tell when a ball is played back to a goalkeeper when they're trying to rearrange their body or rearrange the space to make it comfortable for them.
Yep.
I mean, and
100%.
Yeah.
So, well, Chris, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's going back to what Seth said. That's allowing yourself the ability to be comfortable under any situation, And I think for me, again, I go back to my goalkeepers, my first team boys, you'll find them after training, they'll just come and say, hey, can we just clip 15, 20 balls, left foot, right foot, work on my first touch, work on bringing the ball across my body. Omar's been out there. He's watched it, which is huge. And one of my goalkeepers, Andre Rawls, massive. Last year, we spent so much time, because there was so much time in the COVID period, to work on his feet, left foot, right foot, first touch, opening up.
Right.
And you'll see from like March of last year to November, when we were finishing up the playoffs, all his feet went only because obviously we were working on it within the training session, but then the 30 or 40 balls that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, he hit every day consecutive for 6 months made a massive difference, And
Chris, sorry, Seth.
Go ahead.
No, I just, I'll make this point real quick. because you're confident asking for the ball, because you're confident and you're getting those reps in training, I guarantee you'll start noticing the spaces that you're putting yourself in are completely different than when you're not confident. I remember my freshman year, I remember this like it was yesterday, we played against UC Irvine, and there was a situation where my left back got the ball, and I was like, damn, I could show here, but I know for a fact it's my first game playing in college. I do not want to clear this ball with my left foot. Sure enough, my left back turns, looks at me. In that moment where he probably could have played me the ball had I checked, he loses sight of the striker. The striker takes the ball away from him. They come down the wing. They cross it in. One touch finish. We're down 3. I mean, it was 3-0. So I put my thumb over the scoreboard too. But it was just, it was that situation where I'm like, damn, had I been confident, I would have created that situation and actually been there for an opportunity. Even I kick it out of bounds. Okay, whatever. But at the same time, like the foundational piece was that I was afraid to receive on my left foot. Damn.
And your team knew that. I looked at one of my players in practice, and it was a small-sided, and she did not play the ball back to the keeper, turned it outside. Ball ended up getting coughed up, and they ended up, like the other group ended up scoring, and that was the winning goal because it was towards the end. And she was coming off the field, and I was just like, I'm going to ask you a question. Did you not play that ball back because you didn't have confidence in the keeper? I'm not saying which keeper it was. And she said, yeah. And so there it is right there. It's like, if you're going to exude that if you don't have that confidence. And had that been Lauren, the ball would have been played back. She probably would have taken a touch. It would have been up. The other team would have been going, and maybe they would have scored. But your player didn't do that. The ball got clipped, Omar, and it was 4-0.
No, it was 3-0.
Oh, sorry, it was the third goal. That was the third goal. I thought you were saying it was already 3-0.
We got to go back.
Guys, what it does to people around you as the goal, the center backs, the sixes, whoever's around the goalkeeper at the time, like just then you see a lot of us kind of go, yeah, okay. It's massively confident building for the group in general, and it's a great example last week of what you just said. I had a U17 DA watching them play 11v11. They were it was the 2 nights before their opening game this season. Center forward for the opposite team and the 2 center backs. Center forward was between them, and our left back, the left back for him had made the run down the sideline. So now he's 20 yards advanced the 18-yard box, runs himself into trouble. The center back opens all the way up to the sideline to receive the ball back from the left back. And now the center forward and the center back are now 1v1. Right in the center. So I said to my goalkeeper, I said, look, you see that eventuating. Why not say to your left center back, stay? Mm-hmm. I will go and get the ball.
Yeah, exactly.
I will go and get the ball. So as the left back turns and is now, 15 yards outside the 18-yard box, he's now looking at you opening up the space. You're saying to your center back, stay, take care of the lone striker in the middle, give me the ball, and then we'll go from there. And then the center back, if the striker comes, center back stands still, you play the center back, turn, we're out.
Absolutely.
And that's the situation you're talking about there. I said to the young fella, literally 3 minutes later, the same thing happened on the other side, and he's gone, stayed, opened up, yes, give me the ball, bang. Forward comes in, he plays the center back plays out the other side, and they're gone.
And now you're out.
But you're out. But I bet you it's because he was going to receive the ball on his left side. And he didn't. He might have been going, yeah, I saw that, Chris. Great. But the confidence to go out there and get it on your left foot and play it in there and just be 2 minutes later. Now, it might have been because I told it to him. He was looking for it. No problems. But 2 minutes later, the same thing happened on the other side. And it was brilliant. Out. Got good protection in the middle. Plays it in the center back. Out the other side. The guys are gone. Out. And just those little moments of recognition and little moments of, like you said, confidence.
Sharpe, you just brought something up that I think is actually really important right there is that if your team doesn't have trust in you in certain situations, in certain scenarios or whatever, they're going to try to do your work for you, especially at the youth level. They're going to try to do your work for you. And that's when you
look at that hair.
Look at that hair.
Have a look at that hair.
For anyone's listening, I just switched the background to Chris in the MLS Cup Championship.
Whoa. About 11 years ago.
But but that's when your team loses shape real quick. And now that's when you become susceptible to a really tough situation because they're trying to do your work for you.
Yeah, but that's when it also makes the other team, your team, easier to mark and to plug holes. You know, if they're doing that work for you instead of you opening up and now it going through you, and now you're, you know, now everybody can spread out and somebody can be on the touch line and stuff like that. Like that helps open up those spaces and move the ball.
Right.
If they're doing that work for you, it's just going to consolidate everybody, and it makes it tougher on your D.
I'm a big component for my young goalkeepers on. I'm all right with them making mistakes. I'm okay. I'm okay with them making mistakes, trying to do the right things. And they will tell you what's the one pet hate of Sharpe: making mistakes, doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again. I'm 100% okay if he opens up there, gets the ball, clips it out, under hits the center forward, goes in the back of the net, because he's trying to do the right things.
Right.
You know, but if he keeps doing it the same way and the effect's different, then to me, it just is like banging my head against a wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My younger goalkeepers doing the right things, trying to make things happen by doing them the right way and making mistakes, I'm 100% okay with that.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think also too, you know, I think it could be used differently. But Nathan Thackeray, I was talking to him about, you know, taller goalkeepers, even shorter goalkeepers that are good in the air, like on free kicks. I don't know if you guys saw. I posted a picture of Ter Stegen. He stands on top of his, like, between the 6 and the PK spot on a free kick on the left flank, probably like 35 yards up. And if you watch the full clip, he recovers immediately back to his line. But just because he stayed extremely high, that ball was served away from position where he could come out for it, and now he's getting a header from the PK spot versus from the 6. And I kind of transition and translate that to actually creating depth or creating movement to find the ball. You don't actually have to get the ball passed back to you, but the mere fact that the striker now has to look at you and look at the center back as both of you guys being viable options for this ball, or the center back receiving the ball, and now you just, even if you don't want to, just say, hey, I'm on. Now the striker has to look at you, and that half second of turning their head gives your center back that 1 second window to now take the ball in advance. Or they go to the center back and then they find you, and now you guys are playing a 3v2, 3v1 situation. So like we talked about, again, expand your game to the range of obviously knowing what your team plays, but expand it so that you feel comfortable giving your team that one-man advantage trying to play out of the back.
Yeah.
You just brought up something brilliant, Omar, and that is the fact. No,
Mike,
because
Mike, did I ever tell you? I was gonna say, Mike, did I ever tell you that I love your highlights, dude? I gotta say it, man. Highlights you pick are class, my friend. Okay, go ahead.
I will say, no, you brought up the fact that about the fact is that you don't need to receive the ball to affect the play, and I think Sharpe, I think a lot of young goalkeepers don't understand that, and they get frustrated and they go like, well, I moved and I gave him this option and he didn't play me the ball. Just, you affected the play there. You've affected the play, and you gave your team an outlet. Maybe he didn't need to go. He didn't need to go there. The play changed or whatever. But because you moved into the right space, you create it, and that's just as good as you receiving the ball and having to, escape or change the point of attack, or having to make a save. Whatever. Yeah. That's goalkeeping.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same thing they say. Save the field plays. In any style of play, the movement off the ball creates space for others.
Exactly.
And the player keeps making the same run and never receives the ball, but it's selfless movement, isn't it? So. In the play I've just described, where the boy opens up, the center forward stays with the 2 center backs. If the boy opens up, the center forward takes off. The left back might be playing the center back then. But by my moving, I've moved the center forward that allows the next pass to be available. You know what I mean? It's just a different option. But obviously, then you put the onus on the right back or the left back to make that decision. But your movement absolutely changes the picture for the person, A, on the ball, and B, the people who are trying to press you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's a huge component of it, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. By the way, I know everybody's. We're going. It's late. Obviously, we started a little bit late today because of everybody's meetings and stuff like that. But I do want to bring up one more thing before we kind of wrap up and everything like that. And then we had Matt Turner last week, which unfortunately Saskia was not able to bring more Jersey swagger with another Jersey
Sorry.
goalkeeper. That's okay. We'll have him back. But we talked about the prep touch, and the whole episode we were talking about the prep touch, and one of the things that was brought up in regards to the prep touch, Sharpe, was that your prep touch determines how successful your space manipulation is, because you can create all space in the world, but if your prep touch is a rough touch, then it was all for naught.
Right. I think 100% agree with that. You know, you open up, you create yourself good space, you create others good space. You know, that's why we work on, you know, our first and second touch, you know, and it might be a lot of the time for me, a lot of the time is banging in balls that are bouncing in, coming in their chest, where they're just settling the first one, get the second one out of your feet so you can play quickly. And it's not always going to be a perfect ball. A lot of the times balls get played over the back of the center backs. They got people up their backside. They're looking at you. They're just trying to get the ball off their feet quickly. The ball doesn't come in, you know, with great weight or at a good height or whatever it looks like, you know. But once you've created the movement or the space in your movement, the touch you have then, you know, is just going to solidify whatever ball you decide to give, you know. And a lot of the times creating depth is, you know, maybe I'm always talking about moving the ball, you know, moving the ball with purpose, taking a touch, not letting the ball stand still. But sometimes you just got to put the foot on the ball, kill it dead and see what they do. You know what I mean? And it might be a different scenario where you're just holding them, letting them wait, letting the striker wait, or you're drawing someone toward you to play the next pass to go, you know. But that thought process has to always be, you know, what am I doing with the ball? Scanning, the identification of where the next pass is going, so the person who's receiving my ball is able to make their next pass with ease and comfort, you know. But the prep touch, you know, and everything is huge.
Just real quick, Chris. So this is a picture from, I think, Leipzig and the way they play, this kind of setup right here.
Yep.
And like you just said, when you play this ball, if they, let's say, for example, as the like Warner or Sabitzer, I don't know how to say his name, but let's say he plays his right back here.
You just said that perfectly. So
okay,
yeah,
he plays his right back right here. Werner.
Yeah.
Most likely, if I see this guy step, I'm creating as much depth as I possibly can, probably going the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like that's kind of like the mentality you have to have as a goalkeeper in these situations is like, yes, they're probably baiting me to play this ball. Okay, great. I know exactly where I'm going to go next. And then when I go next, I mean, that's probably when the film comes into play. Let's say Poulsen steps up into this space, and then Forsberg probably steps up to the left back. Now I can chip that ball over here, and then we're out the other way. So like to your point right there, exactly what you just said is when I play this ball, understanding is depth going to be required on my next movement, so that not just to give myself time, but I can also have my time as well to take my prep touch and scan the field, and then exactly what we reviewed in film, bypass him or play it short because Forsberg didn't step.
Right. Yeah, and you'll see a lot of young kids will play that ball and then they don't make themselves available to help
like
again.
I did my job. There we go.
Like, here you go, play the ball.
100%.
No,
yeah.
You've got to get back into a new position so that you can receive that ball again. You're 100% right, and now you've pulled their players out of position, and now you have another option. You know that it's a chess game. It can't just be like, here's the one pass, bye.
Right. Yeah. How many times do you guys see? This is something else that we've been working on. Goalkeeper catches a cross of any description, high ball, into the chest, whatever it looks like, and they go flying to the 18-yard box and look for the quick outlet. It's not on. Other teams done a good job. They slowed you down, man in front of you. You can't release the ball quickly. And all of a sudden, now you're in front of your center backs. Mm-hmm. So your team starts to take shape, and now I'm 3 yards in front of my center backs. What am I going to do? Turn and roll the ball back to them? You know what I mean? Where they have this the sense to go back in line and then back again.
Right.
Create yourself some depth. Now you're playing with some space. You know, and I see it all the time. You know, young goalkeeper, grab a cross, done a great job in the traffic, bang, looking for the quick outlet. Then all of a sudden looks around and finds himself 5 yards in front of the center backs. And the team down. Yeah, just back yourself up. Then go back again. Now you've got space. You've created yourself space while the ball's still in your hands to allow for the next part of the transition to take place. You know what I mean? And just little moments, tiny little things. And you know, I think are huge when you talk about creating space.
No, that's not taught enough, and I think you know, as obviously Saskia always brings up the literalization by young goalkeepers. It's because you know they're taught move up, go up. You win the cross, go up. And they don't.
Well, I went forward.
They don't,
I can't go any more forward. And then what do? Roll the ball to themselves and go outside the box.
Right.
So now you've left the ball. Now you've left the box. Now the ball's on your foot. Now your team's still trying to get up past you, and now it's just a nightmare. Back up. You're allowed to go back.
Yeah. Or you see the kid turn as he's running back towards the goal. He rolls the ball backwards to his centre back. Now he's facing his goal. The ball's going backwards towards the end line, and he's scrambling or she's scrambling to get back behind to create some sort of an angle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So you talk about creating space. Those are moments as well that, for me, they create space.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I that was something I didn't even think about. Well, guys, as we wrap, you know, first off, you know, Chris, honestly, thanks for taking all the time, man. I mean, honestly,
absolutely great stuff.
First day of, and it's funny because like Sharpe is like, he's like, oh man, he's like, we're changing up our system right now, so I don't have any clips and everything like that. But if you want to find some clips, we can do it or whatever. But so it's a little bit of a crazy situation right now with obviously day one of preseason training starting out. So for the fact that you're willing to spend an hour and a half with us on the podcast, man, I mean, means
you have to ask me, ask Omar. Anytime I can talk about goalkeeping, I love it.
I was impressed with the backgrounds, Omar. Well done, well done.
Thank you guys.
You've got a cheeky grin on your face over there, though, mate. I feel like something else is coming. Like there's a little,
Anything else
on the face there.
There was one more, but it didn't download. I have to figure it out.
Oh,
I know.
man.
I know. Continue. I'll figure it out. Go ahead.
Oh man. The last thing I want to ask you as we wrap up here is that so many young goalkeepers, when we talk about the movement, they think about, like you were, like I think either Saskia or you just brought up, it was like, the first movement. How important is that second movement after you've received the ball? Because I think a lot of goalkeepers, like you were talking about passing the buck, it's like they made their movement, they created space, they received the ball, they play the ball, and my job is done, as opposed to seeing what's the second movement. So how do we work on teaching those goalkeepers to be involved, invested in the play, and be ready for that second movement?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I mean, for me as a goalkeeper, there's no plays off. It doesn't matter if the ball's a corner kick at the other end of the field. You've got a job to do, shape behind the ball, organizing, getting your feet sorted out, making sure that everything's taken care of. And for me, we go through games, guys, as goalkeepers where you might not see the ball literally at your feet or in your hands for long periods of time. Your movement of the ball, your north, south, east, west movement, your ability to communicate, your ability to organize, all these little moments in the game are massive for any goalkeeper. It doesn't matter how old you are. But the movement off the ball, whether your team's in possession in the middle third, they're in your defensive third, they're in the opposition, your final third, your movement is so critical because it can change like that in a split second. And we've been working hard the last few weeks in our academy on transitional moments. We've got some very, very good goalkeepers and they're playing at very high levels where balls turn over in the middle third. They're trying to be nice and high to, cover the space behind the back four, but ball turns over and they're still thinking, there's still no danger. All of a sudden they're backpedaling at pace. They've got no kind of shape in their body. Kid looks up and goes bang over top of them. And just those transitional moments, I think movement in possession, out of possession, in your defending third, in your middle third, it doesn't matter. It's so important. First movement. You're constantly moving, and looking for ways to affect the play when you guys either have the ball or you don't have the ball.
Yep.
Nothing to add to that.
No. Oh, here's one more. Oh my gosh. Baby Sharpe. Baby Sharpe.
Wow.
Oh my god.
That's a good one, Omar. That's a good one.
Winner, mate. That is a
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker.
I don't think much has changed.
Is that a playing shirt? Playing shirt, Claire?
I think it's our warm-up jersey. It was my first year at the Rapids in 2008.
Oh my god.
Baby face.
Yeah, I think that's pre-game warm-up jersey.
Good job.
That is
Chris,
crazy.
I want to say congratulations. I know your baby's on the way.
Thank you.
And excited for you.
Absolutely.
Your first kid?
First one, yeah.
Oh man,
another little goalkeeper added to the goalkeeper union. So.
All right, there you
I
go.
know. I don't know. I'm
excited.
I like. What do you think about Omar as a middle name? What do you think? Too much?
As long as he's got more of my missus' components than mine, we'll be all right.
I'm glad you said Omar as opposed to Pro GK. You don't want to do one middle name.
No.
Hey, I'll take the Pro GK onesies though, mate. Just send a whole box forward.
Go, I love it.
Oh my god,
Get the
Omar!
baby mask. Get the baby
think
mask.
there's actually. I think somebody else needs a Pro GK onesie as well too.
I do too.
Sauce, I got you.
That too.
Except for she's 8 pounds. She's 8 pounds 11 ounces. So I need like the 3 to 6 month old one.
Oh.
Okay.
All right, we do have a future goalkeeper right there. That is for sure.
That is for sure.
Oh my gosh. Well, Sharpe. If anybody wants to reach out to you, where's the best place for them to connect with you on social media?
On my Facebook page, you can just DM me on Messenger. C_Sharpe01 on Instagram. Look, Omar, I've done this a million times. I'm always willing to answer questions. So, guys, please feel free. At Core Goalkeeper Academy as well. Just hit me up on any of those with any of your questions. And I'm always happy to answer them. And I'll take the time to as well.
Guys,
Right
if he doesn't answer your messages or anything like that, send them to me. I will disguise them as my questions, and I will get back to you. I'll get back to you guys
I will
later.
wake up at 5 a.m. with
Oh
Yeah,
my
no.
gosh. Well, obviously, guys, contact at Inside the 18 Media. That's the number 18media.com. If you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, or at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. Obviously, you can follow Saskia Weber at Saskia_Weber and Omar Zini at ProGK Academy _. That is all the time for Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.